Hey, welcome to the Summit Host Hangout podcast, where you'll learn how to host a high-converting virtual summit that leads to your biggest signature offer launch yet. I'm your host, Krista from Summit in a Box, and we've kind of been in a series of some fun behind-the-scenes episodes, and I decided to just keep that going today with a behind-the-scenes look at the launch of a new program we had going on a couple months ago. And as of recording this, we just made the decision to switch our episodes to every other week, so this episode is way farther out from the launch than I meant for it to be, but I hope it's still fun to hear. So specifically, I'm talking about our Challenges That Make Bank program that launched in January. So you might have heard a little bit of what I'll cover in the episode I posted when enrollment opened, but I'm just going to kind of assume that a lot of people didn't listen to that and go over some of it here along with lots more. So I'm going to cover the timing of all of this and why it happened when it did. I'll talk about my launch plan, the project planning process, how the launch felt, how the webinar felt, what I do differently, how we're going to fit it into our business model, all kinds of good nerdy behind the scenes stuff. So I hope you like it. So let's start with how the timing for this launch happened, because I had been sitting on this idea for a very long time. I've been wanting to create a challenge program for years, but just kind of felt like I couldn't because I'm the summit person. And then it was probably, maybe a year before we actually released it, where I decided I was going to go for it. We had the sales page and launch copy and webinar copy, everything written and ready to go. And then again, I just chickened out. I was like, I can't do this. This is going to confuse people, or they're going to wonder what the heck I think I'm doing. So the imposter syndrome, it never goes away. So yeah, I backed off, and I'm very driven by gut feelings. So when there's things like that swirling in the back of my mind, I just don't do well with it. And I had actually planned on diving into planning a summit in the new year. So when January hit, we were going to hit the ground running with planning a summit, and it's just kind of coast through the end of 2023. We weren't really going to do anything. But my team member, Ellie, mentioned that she thought it would be a really good idea for us to do it. And that was all I needed. I don't think she knew exactly what she was getting us all into when she sent me that encouraging message that day. But we hit the ground running and I didn't look back. So that's how the timing happened. And since this was the first launch of a new program that I had not created yet, I needed it to be easy, both as far as creating the program and as far as the launch went. I was not about to pair it with a summit. Launching it with a challenge felt a little too meta and still a little more than I wanted to commit to when it would also be or involve me creating the new program. So when we're looking specifically at the program content, all of the trainings and templates I knew I'd want to include, I knew I was going to position this as a beta launch. Just like when I made Summit in a Box, I was not willing to create everything, literally thousands of trainings and resources before proving whether or not people would like it. I did not want to do a membership model for this again when I was building it out like I did for Summit in a Box. So I decided that doing kind of a beta release based on our challenge phases made sense. I also didn't want to launch just with the first phase, since it's one that someone could probably bust through in a day or two if they really wanted to. And then phase 2, on the other hand, of this program is pretty bulky. So launching with both felt good. So that's what I decided to do. We launched with phase 1, which is doing all of the planning and initial positioning and things like that for your challenge. And then phase 2 is creating everything, creating the challenge content, the registration page, all of that good stuff. And then after that, I knew I needed a plan for releasing the other 4 phases. I would have loved to promise to release a phase per week, and I wanted to so badly, but I knew that wouldn't be reasonable with other team members needing time to help with designing templates and editing and uploading content. So I ended up saying every other week, and I am so glad I did. So I'm recording this today is when phase 3 was due for all of our people, and we pushed it to the wire. Let me tell you that. So I am so glad that I didn't promise that everything would be released week by week. So I think the rest of the phases will go a little bit more smoothly though. So that was how I kind of planned to release the content. And then as far as the launch itself went, again, my instinct is always to do a challenge, but that was a little too meta for me, and I just needed it to be easier. So I decided to do a webinar. The thing was, though, I don't generally love doing webinars because they feel a little too impersonal. To me, I don't like coming across as just come so I can pitch you. So I decided to make this real good. So it wasn't like a normal webinar where I was teaching 3 phases to do this and hit on pain points and where you'll go wrong if you do it by yourself. Like I could have done that and it would have been fine, but I really wanted this to be more fun and to stand out. And I had remembered when Dama Ju from damaju.com launched her program about, I think it's paid bundles. She did like a behind the scenes webinar. And while I never went to that, it sounded so fun. And that's kind of what gave me the idea to do a behind the scenes kind of positioning for my webinar. I was hoping it would sound fun for people and be fun for them. And I ended up with an outline I was really excited about. So I'll talk about how that went a little bit more later, but I don't want to get ahead of myself here. So next up, I'll talk about the project planning process. So I used someone else's project plan to create like an initial plan for the launch and then fleshed it out more from there, specifically with like how I was going to create the program content. I did save the content creation part for too long. Like I was putting it off. I didn't want to dive into it. I was a little overwhelmed and it kind of bit us in the end, but whatever. It's fine. We made it. I had all of the content outlined on time, but I waited until the week before to record phases 1 and 2, which then put Kate in a tight spot for getting it all edited and uploaded. And she did it. It was great, but I wish it would have been like a little lower pressure. As for how the launch felt, I would say in the past, my launches have felt like stressful, both in terms of results, like worrying about how it was going to go, as well as being stressed about everything to do and feeling like I was going to have to work extra and all this stuff. And I just didn't get to that with this launch. It was so nice. Like I remember the Monday before we opened the cart, like sitting here all giddy and giggly in Voxer, my coach, being like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. I love this. Why don't I launch all the time? And like, come on, I had not done that before. And I think just like the work I've done with her, with like kind of getting detached from results, knowing that stuff in the business can wait, understanding that my business will fit into the container that I give it and being happy with the container that it has right now. Like, I think all of that just had a part to play on why this launch felt so fun. So yeah, as far as everything I had to do goes, like I said, I did wait a little too long to record the content. Everything else was planned out very well in advance. I had other people pulled in for things like writing copy, building the major website pages, tech setup, everything I needed. Even, some of it was my employees, but I did hire a couple extra contractors to do those things. So my job was basically to create the content, guide the project, and then just like double check the details. We did get to crunch time in the end, but not necessarily in a way that my schedule was overloaded. Like I cleared some calls off my calendar that were scheduled. I made sure there wasn't anything extra on my plate, which there really wasn't since I've gotten better at making the main thing and just focusing on one thing at a time. And I just knew I had time to do what I needed. So going into the last few days, there was just like details. Like I needed to double check the mobile version of the sales page, double check the course content that was uploaded and like kind of tweak some of the lesson descriptions, finish the initial project plan that we were giving people. So like, everything was pretty straightforward. It felt really doable. And I didn't end up needing to work any extra until the day before the launch, when a team assignment to a new team member did not go so hot. And like, yeah, we don't have to go there. I had to work an extra hour because of it. So not ideal, but like overall, other than that, it was so chill. Like the week before the launch, I took time off on a day to take my 2-year-old to her first Mommy and Me gymnastics class. And then I took time off the next day to go have lunch at school with my 6-year-old for her birthday. Like neither of those things would have happened a week before a launch in the past. And I give all the credit for that to my coach, Caitlin. She is wonderful. And yeah, the other team member thing just made sure it didn't feel too perfect, just kind of snapped me back into reality. But that was really the first time I felt stressed during that process. So overall, it went really well. Not perfect, but hey, I'll take it. So we launched, like I said, with a webinar. I launched on a Thursday. It was so fun. I'm so glad that I took the route with the webinar that I took. And, we still have other webinars that are the more classic style. I still stand by those. They still work, but this one was just fun. And I also think it was really important for me to have a webinar that felt fun, because literally in the webinar, I was like, I use challenges because webinars don't have enough engagement, so like I couldn't be doing some lame webinar. It had to be great. So people were like, aren't you doing that right now? It was a lot of fun. There was a ton of interaction. I think we had almost 90 people there live, which for me is pretty darn good for anything that's happening live. And what I really loved was that our students from other programs, from Summit in a Box, from the Launch with the Summit Accelerator, they showed up. They were my biggest cheerleaders. It was so fun to have them in the chat. Man, I still actually haven't gone through and scrolled through the chat, but I was able to glance over every once in a while, and Kate sent me some screenshots from the chat afterwards, and it makes me so happy. Like, I just need to make a sign of all that feedback we got from our current students being like, oh my gosh, if Krista made it, I'm in. Like, this is a no-brainer. Like, it was just so nice. As for the results, like, I didn't feel stressed around the results, which was so nice. I typically can't say that going into big launches, but I just had confidence that it was going to work. I think largely that was in part due to the audience research that my copywriter did. I worked with Nadine from Can Do Content, and audience research is a big part of her process. And getting that research back, I just knew it was going to work. I think another part of that was the feedback I was getting from people as we had started teasing it out. They were just excited. And then looking at it, I was just like, this is good stuff. Like, I know this is good. So my goal was 40 people. I was like, if we get 40 people in the door, it's going to feel worth it to go through and make all of this content. And on one hand, that felt like a lot. It's like, if it's 39, am I really going to not do it? But I just knew it was going to work. So we got 17 in the door right off of the live webinar, which felt really great. They were excitement. It was so fun. They loved it. I loved it. All good. And then we also had a fast action bonus available for 2 days after that. And we hit and exceeded that goal of 40 people in those 2 days, which just felt nice. I know that I'm like very privileged to be able to say that. That is not how my first lots of years of launching went. Okay, so if you're listening to this and you're newer, I'm 9 years into business now. It's taken me a bit. But then, of course, after that, we hit the mid-launch slump. We went, I think, 1 day with no sales at all, or maybe it was just one sale, but that didn't faze me. Like, I know how launches work. I know in the middle, if there's nothing special going on, there's going to be fewer sales, but I knew it would come back. Even though I knew that it was going to come back though, I wanted to do my best to keep that momentum going, even though it did end up being kind of a busy week for me with too many calls, appointments for a kiddo, trying to work on the next phase of content. Even with all that though, I did add 2 live calls on that Wednesday. We had been getting quite a few questions from people who were like, what's a challenge? I was like, oops, I didn't teach you guys that. I just assumed everyone knew what a challenge was. So I wanted to do a training about that. And then I figured, hey, this is a brand new program people haven't seen before. I've seen people do this open house strategy. I might as well try that. So I added both a what is a challenge call and an open house call back to back on Wednesday. And overall, I think they were a good experiment. I think they were worth trying. They were pretty low prep, low time on my part, but I don't think I'd do them again. I think we had 15 people that came, and I am glad I gave people the opportunity to come and learn what a challenge is. But I just don't think I would do it again. No sales came directly after them. Maybe some of those people joined later. I didn't actually check, but it just, felt like a low return. And that could be that I did it wrong, right? I'm not saying it wouldn't work for anyone. It didn't work for me. Another thing that I was debating mid-launch was advertising an 8-month payment option. So we released this program with a full pay option and a 4-pay option. And I figured we'd probably get questions from people who wanted a longer payment plan. So I did we did set up the tech for that. And I was like, okay, maybe on Wednesday, I do hey, final 24 hours, here's this 8-pay option. I was pretty sure I'd get some more sales for that, but as I sat with it, it just did not align with my values. It just felt icky. We advertised this program as one for people who are farther along in business, who have an offer that works, who have hosted a summit and need something to get momentum in sales between summits. And I just felt like most of those people probably wouldn't need the 8-month option. So I felt like adding that might be misleading to the people that the program might not be the best fit for. And while I would offer it to anyone who asked, it just didn't sit with me quite right to try to do some big promotion around it. So I wanted to share that with you so that you can kind of see how sometimes you do have to make tough decisions. Am I going to make more sales or am I going to align with my values? And every single time I'm going to pick values if it, pops to mind. And I'm really glad that it did come to my mind before I did that promotion. Then after that, we had Cart Close Day. That's always a really great day for us. We send 3 emails on Cart Close Day, keeping in mind that all of our emails for launch always have a link at the bottom where people can click to stop getting our launch emails. But every time we send an email on launch day, we get an influx of sales. So that's why I always do it. And we ended the launch with 64 total sales, which felt so great. It exceeded my stretch goal, both for revenue and for the number of new students we got to welcome and support. And it has been so fun working with these people, seeing their feedback, seeing their excitement as we've been creating the content and releasing. And today we released a new phase. It's just been so much fun to work with them. And I can't wait to see the initial results start rolling in. I'm sure by the time this episode goes live, we'll already have some of those. So I can't wait. As for some things I would do differently, I really can only think of 2. Number 1, I would plan even farther ahead, of course, right? Like, I feel like I could say that no matter what. I could have planned an extra month and I would have procrastinated and said it again. But, the last few days were a little sketchy. And then something else I would do differently is not mess up our email segmenting. Oh my goodness. 2 times we sent an email to 13,000 people that should have only gone to our clients with like a special client only coupon code. And it was such like a slam your head against the desk moment both times. And some people responded back. They're like, hey, this coupon code isn't working because of course we, disabled it right away. Can I get this discount? And I was like, these people are paying us a decent amount of money every month. That's why they're getting this discount. So if you want to join the program, you can have the discount. But I just felt really bad. Yeah, not my proudest moment. But again, I wanted to talk about it on here so that you can see if you mess things up in a launch, you are not alone. Even me, who is like obsessive over details and planning and all of that, I missed something very important 2 times. So there we go. Moving forward, I'm really excited to fit this program into our business model. I wouldn't have launched it if it wouldn't fit in well. And again, hopefully by the time this episode goes live, it will all be there. But this pairs so perfectly with our other offers. When people come into our summit programs, they get great results. And then they feel like, oh darn, like the only way I can get these results again is by hosting another summit. And then they just keep hosting summit after summit after summit. And some people love that, but some people are like, oh, I wish I had something else that worked. And for me, that's what challenges do. And now I'm so excited to be able to teach that method to other people. So if it's perfectly in that way, where it's the right next step for people in our other offers, it's also a really great offer when someone's not a great fit, or when our summit related offers aren't a great fit for someone. Maybe their goals don't align with actually hosting a summit, or maybe they're not ready for something with that level of detail. We have this other program that we can point them to, which I think is just going to feel really good. I never like being like, oh, no, this isn't a good fit for you. Sorry, without having something else to offer. And now we do have that other thing to offer. So I think it's going to be good, and hopefully it will be done soon. And hopefully it's done now when you're listening, and you can go to our programs page and see it listed there. Go to our freebies page and see a challenge related freebie. Yeah, we'll see what happens. So I hope this little behind the scenes look was helpful. Reach out on Instagram if you have any other questions, things you'd like to hear about with the launch. I love talking about this stuff. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. For show notes and resources mentioned, head to the link in the episode description. Now go out and take action to plan, strategize, and launch your high converting virtual summit.